Welcome to the show. I'm doing things a little different this week. It's an election special. Thanks for coming, Sonya Sharp.
Thanks for having me.
For people who don't know you, what's your story and why did you decide to run for mayor?
What's my story? So I'm a born and raised Calgarian. My parents are immigrants to Canada and we have a really big family. I'm Italian. And so I just grew up just like a regular kid in Silver Springs. My parents worked to live and I always wanted to be a teacher when I, kind of wanted to go to university. And my family ran a construction business. My mom was a chef at a restaurant at nights and just kind of grew up in a normal family, big family, lots of talks, lots of food, and enjoyed life as best as my parents could provide. And when I was 18, I went to the University of Lethbridge to become a teacher. And I knew a lot about the construction business because my dad, it was like a home-based business and construction, and just kind of ended up at the kitchen table. But I didn't really want to do that. So I went away to be a teacher. And a couple years into my degree, my mom fell ill and I came back to run the family business because my dad wanted to take care of my mom. And I kind of fell in love with the construction industry and building houses and building things and seeing and designing. So I actually went to SAIT and I got a diploma in construction. So I did that. And then I started working at the City of Calgary as a lifeguard. So I was running a business, finishing a diploma at SAIT and working as a lifeguard the first thing in the morning and late at night because, I need a little bit of money. I was in my early 20s. And when I was in Lethbridge, though, I met my now husband there who was graduating with a business degree. And so we also started buying service-based businesses around Calgary and BC. And it was in 2004 when I decided that, lifeguarding was great, but I wanted to, explore some other options. And the city had some opportunities in the planning development department. So I applied to be, back then it was a planning service technician at the third floor city counter. So where you'd get your permits. And so I applied for that, got the job. And at the same time, my mom was doing much better. My dad took back the business and I left the construction business, but still operated some of the other service-based businesses. So worked at the city the planning department for a while. I had 2 kids while I was in the planning department. And in 2016, we still had the business in BC. And I thought it was time for me to leave the city. And my manager at the time said, I don't think you should leave. We have an opportunity coming that you would absolutely love, and we hope that you apply for it. So I said, sure. And really what it was a liaison between the business community and the City of Calgary. And helping the businesses navigate through their permits, through red tape. And I said, I'll apply. And I was successful. So I was pretty happy about that. Left the planning department and the position was pushed into the city manager's office. And it happened right before COVID. And so I had a small but mighty team that trailblazed through COVID times by putting patios on the street and allowing restaurants to thrive, working with small businesses on opportunities for grants to survive COVID. And I really enjoyed it. And we had so much success. We were the envy of a lot of cities in Alberta. And it was in early 2021 when I realized that you can only do so much inside. So it was time for me to decide what my next step was going to be. So I actually quit the city after 20 years and decided to run for council. And so I did in July of 2021. I quit my job, was successful to run for council, and have been a sitting councillor for Ward 1 for the last 4 years, which has been incredible. I've met some great people, had some great achievements, and some hurdles too, which comes with the job. And it was last summer when I decided that I wanted to run for mayor. It was around the water main break time when I really realized what has been missing on this council and leadership that, delivers, leadership that listens. And so I started to put my thoughts together around that, spoke to the family, started talking to a lot of mayors from previous years, political strategists, and just said, okay, I want to run for mayor. And so where do I start? What do I do? And how do I get there? And here I am. And there's, a couple months left to the election. And things are going quite well.
What's been the biggest shift for you, shifting from private to public sectors?
Well, I think the biggest shift, and it's almost not a shift. It's a parallel world. When I ran my own business, it was customer service, and we were delivering a service. So if we were, we were building a house, you're building it for a customer. If you were, when we had service-based businesses, you had customers that came in. So you were always delivering a service. With the public sector I'm a public servant. I serve the public. It's still their customers, right? At the end of the day, your taxpayers are your customers. So I always found like the two kind of went hand in hand. And, the one thing is that, you look at opportunity, it's always to listen and to learn and understand what that customer or that taxpayer may need. And so I don't know if it's much of a shift. It's more of like two parallels, and depending on how you do things. The difference is obviously too is, when you run your own business, you're your own boss, and you're only going to be successful if you're good at what you do. When you work in the public industry, depending where you are in the corporation, you either report to somebody or you don't, and you have to deliver not just based on what you're hearing from your constituents or hearing from the customers that you serve, but you have to be delivering, for that the part of the corporation or business unit. So it's been 20, almost 25 years of public service, with 16 of those years being a small business owner. And, I feel like I have not just the practical hands-on institutional knowledge of City Hall, but coupled with understanding what businesses go through. And now the political side of things, it's like the perfect storm to be in the position I am in right now.
What's one thing you love about Calgary?
Oh my goodness, only one thing.
You can say two if you want.
I can say two. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so the one thing I love about the city is the energy in this city. We've been through a lot of, we've been through ups and downs in Calgary. Everyone knows that. If you've lived here for more than like 20 years, you've seen so many things happen, booms and busts and floods and storms, and people are so welcoming to help. And doesn't matter where you live in the city. There's, I've traveled a lot, and the one thing I noticed when you walk down the street, if you catch eye with someone and you smile, they smile back. And it's like that energy, that's that warmth I've always enjoyed. And then the other thing about Calgary is just the welcoming diversity of now what we see. Like, growing up, you would hear about pockets of areas of Calgary that, had certain demographics. Now it's everywhere and everyone's welcome. And so Calgarians are all about that. And when I see someone that I grew up with and we talk about being like original Calgarians or like the OG group, and it's just a great story. But then you talk to people that have just moved here, and like, I love to hear their story and where they came from. And I think it's just one of these infectious cities that you come into and automatically you're welcomed.
Mm-hmm. I've been hearing that a lot. I have a lot of creatives and artists on, and I hear pretty much that same answer actually, which is good.
Good.
So every candidate cares about the big issues, a lot of similar issues, but everyone sees it through their own lens. So can you tell everyone what lens you bring to the table?
I think my lens is very unique. As I explained my story before, the 20 years I've worked at City Hall as, an employee of the city was really knowing that I was a public servant, from lifeguarding, cleaning those pools, all the way to being able to navigate the business community through COVID restrictions and delivering, deliverables that were unheard of, right? Like patios on the street. That was like, like no one ever thought that was ever going to happen. Serving alcohol outside the parameters of a restaurant. So I would say the institutional knowledge of understanding how City Hall works, coupled with my business experience, I understand what businesses go through. You work to live. I had to go lifeguard so I could have an extra money in my pocket in my early 20s, because I know I didn't pay myself. And, understanding, just seeing my family grow up and look at some of the struggles about just paying bills and meeting that bottom line in your own home. So I understand that. And business community is the heart of Calgary. The small business community is what drives our economy. And then now, as a member of council and seeing politics from a different side, and politics can be great, and politics can also be hard. It can be good, and it can be ugly. And you need to balance that. And so, through my eyes and my experience is, how do you balance that all of that experience, and channel all that energy to serve everybody? Because this is not about you. This is not, or me. Like this job is not about me. It's about you and your needs. And so that's parking your ego, parking your wants, and knowing that regardless of what title I've held since I started in 2001 as a lifeguard, I'm a public servant, even to this day. And even, if I become the mayor, I'm a public servant. I serve the public. And that sense of, understanding in my mind is, I would say, up and beyond anyone that's running against me.
Sometimes I hear people get asked, what would you focus or what would you handle day one? Nothing really gets handled in one day, but what would you begin to focus on day one?
Yeah. And it's an interesting, what would you do first day? And you always plan those first 100 days, right? Like, what's your execution plan? So, obviously, you day one, you got to make sure you know who you're working with and how do you collaborate with even people that you may never have collaborated with before. Collaboration is really important to getting work done. So it's building those relationships with those members of council. We've got a big turnover happening. So, for me, that's a big part of day one, collaborating even with people that are maybe not seeing things the same way. So, we'll park that for a second. But when I think about what I'd like to focus on, it's public safety, because public safety in general kind of touches upon other issues that we're all talking about. So, and public safety doesn't just mean police and fire and transit. It means, our streets, our walkability, feeling safe in your own city. That's really important. I'm having a lot of conversations with people that have moved from Toronto to Vancouver and now to Calgary. And they're like, we're seeing those problems now in our own city. So how do we make that change? How do we work with our provincial government to know what our lane is and what their lane is and how we can work together to bring Calgary back to a safe place? When we start talking about public safety, little other things start to fall in place. We have an affordability issue. We know that. But you think about the business owner on Stephen Avenue, or you think about a business owner down on 17th Avenue that has to put more money into keeping their businesses safe, or their people's homes, an extra alarm. That hits their bottom line. So as a customer to a business, your drink might cost 50 cents more and you wonder why. Well, now the restaurant had to put more bars up because of late night break-ins, or, parents can't afford to, take their kids maybe to a movie because they have to put more alarms on their home for second story break-ins. So that kind of goes hand in hand. And I think a safe city is the most important thing you can think of when you move somewhere and saying, I want to move to that city because it's safe. And, we take that for granted. And I've lived here my whole life and I've seen the city change. And there are times, I probably won't be in certain areas of the city that I may have been 20 years ago at night after 4. And you got to be proud about having a safe city. And so I will be focusing on that. And I know there's a lot of other things that matter to Calgarians, but safety is critical because that means you can live your life the best way you can and how you want to live it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finish this sentence.
Okay.
My vision for Calgary is
an affordable, safe city for everyone, and that people can trust City Hall again.
What does that look like? How do we get there? What does that look like, that vision?
It gets there with strong leadership. It gets there with someone like myself to make some bold moves and have 7 friends to execute that. It comes with a vision, it comes with a plan, and it comes with execution. And it comes with people understanding that tough decisions need to be made. And it's not about, attacking, one department over the other. It's about looking at the city holistically and saying these things need to change for the greater good of Calgary and for the people that live here. And then for people that live here can turn around in a year from now and say, I elected the right mayor. I elected the right council. There's no infighting. They're efficient. They may come from all different walks of life, but they get along and they're here to serve Calgarians and get work done. That's what it looks like.
I'm doing this special series to get people who maybe won't normally vote to go vote or even think about it. Some people never think about it.
Yeah.
Especially municipal elections. If it's not, cartoonish characters in the news that they have to follow like it's a soap opera, they don't care as much. Mm-hmm. So what do you think the importance is of getting people to vote of all ages, everyone?
I think the most important thing people don't realize is how much municipal politics affects your everyday life. If you walk on it, you drink it, you breathe it, you see it, and you're right there, that's us.
It's arguably the most important.
It is the most important. And, we're a child of the province. They create us and we have to work very well with them to get money. And Calgary will always come first when it comes to fighting for what I would want for you. But yeah, it is one of the most important things you can vote on in October. And, if you're 18 now and you're like, I don't know if I want to vote, because in 4 years, you're going to want to be more involved and understand. And, it was one of these things that even before I really got in, I worked at the city and my whole family knew that. But until I really became a member of council 4 years ago, most members of my family didn't realize how much we do affect our lives. If you think about the water main break, your number one job as an municipal elected official is to make sure people have clean drinking water. And if that didn't highlight what your job was, I don't know what would. Clean streets, fill those potholes, pick up your garbage, a safe city, good transit, safe transit. Those are really important things. There's things at, federal level and provincial level that maybe don't affect your day to day every day, but we do at a municipal level. And so it is so important for people to vote. You have it's your democratic right to vote. So, please do and get out there. Early polls are in early October 6th, and then the election day is October 20th. But it is so important, and it's so important for our youth to get involved and to get out there and vote. Like I said, you may not think it's an issue today or in October, but it will be as you continue your journey and getting into being a young adult and how much that does affect your everyday life.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I could talk a little bit about the party or the team that we're building.
Yeah.
So, the province passed a bill about a year ago about putting either parties or slates together. And I was not really a fan of it when it first came out because I do not believe partisan politics belongs at City Hall. And as I looked at this more and more, I can see what the province was trying to do, legitimize really what had happened 4 years ago. And so I started to talk to some of my colleagues that are on council who are now on the Communities First party and just started thinking like, what does this look like? How do we do this? And you got some, obviously some support from people that have done this before. And we've built, I know we're sitting at 10 on Communities First, and everyone knows you need 8 votes to get anything done. A super majority is 10 votes. But I've looked at this all now when people ask me, what do you think and, about this? And, it was a lot of work getting this done. So there's been a lot of work getting to this point, and we've got some fantastic candidates, and I'm really excited about all of them. And I hope, we're all crossing the finish line together. But how I've now positioned this is we're a team. We have a captain. And we have a team, and everybody has the position to play on that team. And all of us are all striving for, yes, winning the election. But the biggest thing is delivering what Calgarians are asking for. And that is the basic things that I mentioned before. And so I think that the other side of when people are looking at this election is remember the people that you're talking to and who they're working with. And there are other parties out there. Obviously, our party's the best. And not just that, we have incumbents. So myself, Councillor Chabot, Councillor Wong, Councillor McLean, the other parties don't have any incumbents. The folks running independently, one of them is an incumbent running independently for the seat of re-election. There is no incumbent on council supporting them. So that's also very telling about leadership. And the other side of that too is Calgarians want an efficient council that gets along. That's that's your 8 votes. And that's just getting in there, doing the work, and not staying there till 10:30 at night to make decisions at 10 o'clock at night that affect Calgarians is not ever a good idea. So, that was part of this election as well. It's a pilot project. So obviously there's going to be some conversation after the election on lessons learned and, does it work? Should we continue it? So Calgary, Edmonton are the 2 kind of guinea pigs to this. And there's been some, there's obviously growing pains to building a party. We're not a conventional party. We don't get a lump sum of money from a level of government. We start from nothing and we build. So that's been a lot of work, and I've really enjoyed it. I would say that, I've also gotten to know a lot of people that applied for the candidacy that are great people that, I just said, if you still want to run and you weren't chosen to be on Communities First, run as an independent and it's okay. But it's always really good to build relationships outside even of that circle because you never know who you're going to work with. And I've had record of not just being unanimous votes on council, being on the minority, but you've got to respect each other. And I think, Communities First has, we're 10 of us are very different from each other, but we're all like-minded individuals in the sense of getting work done. We believe in the same priorities. We care about public safety, and we're going to repeal blanket rezoning. And that's a hot topic right now.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
That's it. I don't know how to outro.
That's okay.
Get out to vote October 20th.